Alright, so what's going on, guys? So today I want to talk about a few things. The electric / hybrid version of the Mustang that Ford keeps leaking, the crossover inspired Mustang, and the current CEO Jim Hackett. So this is basically going to be a story of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to start off with the ugly just to get it out the way. So recently on Instagram, this picture popped up of a crossover inspired Mustang. And this thing is terrible. It looks like the Mustang, the GTR, and that weird crossover from Honda came together and had a baby and created this thing. Why do we need a Mustang-inspired crossover? They've given us a sport version of the Edge, the Explorer, but why do we need a Mustang-inspired crossover? It just doesn't make sense to me. So that's my quick rant on that. So the next big topic is Ford has been leaking of a potential electric / hybrid Mustang. And Ford also filed a patent which showed a V8 engine to power the rear wheels and then 2 separate electric motors powering the front wheels. Thus kind of validating the all-wheel drive Mustang that we've heard about. Now this is definitely a polarizing topic. A lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it. But me, I'm kind of on the fence. I understand why we need electric vehicles and the good they could potentially do. You could very easily keep the Mustang around in its current state, create a new car, and adapt these philosophies to it. By not doing that, you're basically implying that it's the nameplate that makes the car. Okay, so maybe. And of course, I doubt Ford would make you have a hybrid Mustang. It would probably just be a trim level or an optional add-on. There's always somebody in the comments who says something like, oh, we need all electric vehicles. We need to have a cleaner future for our children. So making electricity is not always a clean process. Of course, you have solar, wind, and water power. But right now, those aren't available on a wide enough scale or on a consistent enough basis to be viable options for everybody. Obviously, you can't get solar power at night. Not everybody lives near a waterfall. And you don't have the space needed to put up these huge wind turbines. Now, of course, we have nuclear power, and then we have the old-fashioned way of just burning fossil fuels to create electricity. Now, obviously, nuclear is a little bit cleaner, but it's still not available on the same level that burning fossil fuels is. You're still burning coal, oil, or gas to spin your turbines to create electricity, and then charging your car with it. So electricity is not as clear-cut as some people will lead you to believe. So to surmise here, I'm good with the hybrid Mustang. I still get my V8 engine powering my rear wheels, and then you have 2 electric motors up front that are going to add to your gas mileage and to give you a little more power. So that's the good and the ugly. Now let's go to the bad. And to that, I moved to CEO Jim Hackett. He had a quick interview where they asked him some basic questions. And then watching that interview, I come away thinking this man is completely clueless. So let's watch it and see what you guys think.
In the auto industry is the capital that's required to build a new model makes a barrier that you almost have certainty that it's going to be successful before you spend it. So it causes the company to do mutations of older platforms that probably have served their usefulness and stay with them because the risk is less. It's like doing sequels in movies, you know.
So basically what he's saying is it costs too much to make a new model, and we're scared to push the boundaries because it might fail. So we're just going to keep recycling the old stuff until you get tired of looking at it.
How many versions of Ghostbusters do you want to see? I find myself constantly able to think about the hardest problems. And so when people look at me, they expect a CEO to be maybe more dogmatic or more directive. And I'm thinking more. I'm talking out loud about the issues. I can be philosophical. Most of all, I think I'm always viewed as super authentic. Like what you see is what you get.
What? CEOs are supposed to be directive. That's why you're a CEO. You're supposed to implement the change that's going to bring your company success. And as far as seeming super authentic, he seems like he has no idea what he's talking about. And under his leadership, Ford is going down the drain. If you watch my video, we're witnessing the end of Ford, you may have noticed that red line in the back of my thumbnail. That wasn't something I created. That was an actual screen grab of Ford's stock prices. Meanwhile, while the company tanks, this guy's gotten a $10 million raise. So please explain to me, outside of Ford apparently, where you can be bad at your job and get massive raises. It doesn't work like that for me. Maybe you guys can tell me something different. But let's continue the interview.
One of my biggest joys was watching Bill stand in front of the community, in front of that train station and say it's going to come back. Not only watching Bill's eyes and all the Ford employees that were there, see the excitement, but the fact that Ford is leading our city into the era that it's going to be in the future.
So what he's talking about is there's an old train station in Detroit that Ford is going to be using to kind of push forward its electric vehicles. But my problem with this is why now? Train stations don't just pop up out of nowhere. It's been there. Why is it taking you to 2019 to realize that this is an opportunity? So yeah, on the one hand, it looks good because Ford's bringing jobs back to Detroit. They're bringing about 500 jobs back. But on the other hand, if you look at it, you realize that the cause of this may have come from the fact that Ford is failing on a global level. They recently closed down a bunch of its truck producing factories that are in Mexico, and they're slashing another 5,000 jobs across Europe. Ford is reeling right now. So maybe they're using some sort of retreat and defend tactic. Maybe that's the plan as we move forward. We'll see. Let's go back to the video.
I came into the business not a car guy. I was fully humble about that. And I have fantastic savant level car people in the company. I have come to love so passionately what the F-Series means to us. And it's not only the spreadsheet kind of information. I'm driving a King Ranch. It's my favorite vehicle I've ever owned.
He says he came to the business not a car guy. Obviously, everybody can see that. And again, I don't understand. Except for Ford, where do you go to get a job and you have no interest in what the company is producing and still get that job at a high level? I'm not talking about a vegan working at McDonald's. I'm talking about the CEO of a global multi-billion-dollar company here who knows nothing about cars. And this guy ran a furniture business, which we know we're tanking thanks to the internet and the likes of Amazon. I'm glad that some rich guy drives a pickup truck and claims that it's his favorite thing. So maybe that's his attempt to try to blend in with the common folks, because he's some rich guy who drives a pickup truck.
Anytime you're going through change, there's a famous Italian philosopher who said, for every one soul who wants to change, there's 10,000 souls guarding the past. I would do nothing to ever ruin the company's reputation or people's confidence in wanting to be here, but I will do everything I can to make sure that they can change to be here another 115 years.
So that's the end of the interview, and it starts off with that title card saying change is hard. And he starts off with this BS quote that there's a famous Italian philosopher. Well, he's so famous that you don't even know who he is. Yet for some reason you bothered to bring up the quote in the first place. And yeah, that's not going to take away from the fact that yeah, it's a good quote. Change is hard. We know that. Okay, you know what that's called, Jim Hackett? That's called a truism. Everybody already knows that. You didn't add anything to the segment by saying that. And then he goes on to talk about he doesn't want to damage the company's reputation or people's willingness to be there. But I think firing thousands of people globally will probably hurt their perception of Ford. But let's look here on the home front. Most Americans aren't worried about what's happening in other countries. As long as we're bringing those 500 jobs back to America, everything's all good. But as I mentioned earlier about Ford stock prices, I'm going to open my E-Trade app and show you the actual values. In case you're wondering what my involvement is, I own shares in Ford. So this guy doing a bad job is costing me money. But anyway, let's back to the app. So we're going to click on the F, that's Ford's ticker symbol. And it brings up Ford's actual stock price. So if we look at it, right now it's at $8.40 a share. And I've got it set on a year graph. Except for this one little surge here, it has continued to tank. So of course you may be thinking, Jay, that's a small sample size. Expand it out. Maybe look at 5 years, see how they've been doing. Okay, I can do that. Click on the 5 year. And the story's the same. I mean, there's a few peaks. But you can clearly see which direction they're headed. And as I said, and the kind of the worst part about this whole thing is this guy seems clueless. You're a CEO. You're supposed to give direction. You have those savant level people working for you. Let them come up with the creative ideas. You just find the overall game plan for the company and get everybody else on board with it. As he said, he was not a car guy. He has no interest in cars. It seems his only real interest is making as much money as possible until he gets fired. That last year he made $16.7 million, and this year he's bringing home $17.8 million. That's a $10.1 million raise when you've been doing a bad job. And it's obvious. Just about every metric and statistic that we can look at says this guy's doing a bad job. So at this point, he's probably surprised he still has a job, and he's going to continue to bathe in his own money pits until he gets fired. Now don't get me wrong, I don't want to see this guy fail, and I understand that experience is invaluable. But you got to do something. And maybe there's a new wave of electric vehicles and only crossovers is a spark that's going to ignite for it and bring the company back out of the gutter. Alright, so that's all I got, guys. Thank you for watching my video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Drop a like. Remember to subscribe to my channel. And have a great day.